Huh? Mom, what's up? Is this a divorce paper? Wow, so this is what a divorce paper looks like. What's this over here? A wedding invitation? True, Dad's name is on it. So, this woman's name must be the rumored friend of Mom who's Dad's affair partner. Are you going to the wedding? No way I'm going. Can we even go to this? I guess it's fine. After all, we are Dad's sons, right? If you want to go, you can, but I won't, so it'll just be the two of you. My husband was having an affair with his best friend. And he even had the nerve to hand me the divorce papers and a wedding invitation together. While looking at the divorce papers and the wedding invitation, tears welled up in my eyes. It's frustrating, but I can't think of a way to get back at my husband and best friend. However, it seems like my sons have some kind of plan. Well, we'll go then. It's our father's wedding. We have to celebrate it properly. Right, it's our dear father's wedding. We must make it a wedding he'll never forget. Hey, you two, what's gotten into you all of a sudden? We're gonna ruin Dad's wedding. Ruin? You're not planning to cause a scene, are you? If we do that, we'd be the bad guys, right? We'll make Dad regret it the right way, so don't worry. I was bewildered by my son's words. I thought they'd side with their father or remain neutral due to their mischievous nature and because they used to have fun together. But it seems like they are on my side. So, do you guys have a plan to hold Dad accountable? The plan was thought up by my teenage sons, so I wasn't expecting much. But I was happy that they were thinking of me, so I listened intently to their plan. When we finished talking, I had the same excited expression as my sons. With this plan, we might just be able to send my husband to hell. I am Ava. I'm 45 years old, juggling part-time work and parenting. I used to work for a company until about 15 years ago, but I quit when I had my second son and switched to part-time work. Now, my eldest son, Lucas, is a senior in high school, and my youngest, Ethan, is a freshman, so I'm almost done with parenting. I met my husband, Jack, at work, pushed by my best friend, and we started dating. When I was a college student, I lived alone after leaving my parents' house, and when I graduated, I wanted to work for a local company, so I returned to my hometown. I successfully found a job, and during the training, I saw my best friend Emily among the new hires. Huh? Emily, what are you doing here? I got the job, of course. It's such a coincidence that we're working at the same company. During this unexpected reunion, I couldn't help but scream and grab my best friend's hand. It seems she, too, wanted to work locally and had returned. Our hometown isn't very urban, so there aren't many companies. Because of this, my friend and I ended up applying for jobs in the same industry. We had been together from elementary school through high school, so she knew everything about me. Ava, you're interested in that guy, aren't you? Not really. As always, you're bad at lying. But he's going to be tough to win over. Yeah. He's so active and popular. And he's 10 years older. A plain girl like me won't stand a chance. You're still so passive. Why don't you just go for it? It might cure you of your hesitation. No, but I can't be as bold as you, Emily. Sure, I'm the type to go all out when I like someone, but it wasn't always like that. It became so through experience. Basically, everything is about experience. Emily grinned and patted my shoulder. Her support was half amusement and half encouragement. But I always felt I couldn't keep being this way, so I followed her advice. And the result was unexpected. Emily. I ended up dating him. What? No way! Ava, with the guy? Emily was as surprised as I was, but I was the most shocked. I hoped to change myself, assuming I would be rejected. But instead, I ended up dating him. This colleague would later become my husband, Jack. We dated for about 2 years before getting married. After our first and second sons were born, I quit my job and switched to part-time work. Life with my husband and 2 sons was blissful. However, things started to change when the boys reached elementary school age. My active husband often took us out for fun activities. While it was great to go out as a family, some of the activities and destinations were slightly problematic for me.
Lucas, I can't get it right. It's all wobbly. Help me out.
Isn't it more fun to figure it out yourself? Right, even if it's tough, you gotta keep trying. Ava, you try too.
No, I'd rather not.
The boys were having a blast during their first fishing trip. But I couldn't even get close to them because I'm not fond of bugs. My husband knew a lot of games and activities, but they were all typically boyish things. Naturally, there were often times I couldn't join in their fun. When it came to sports, I'd get worn out quickly because I couldn't keep up with their energy and physical skills. When they would get excited about toys, I couldn't share their enthusiasm. I started to feel like I was just getting in the way of their fun, so gradually, I stopped joining them. Waving them off at the door as they left felt a bit lonely, but if the boys were having fun, that was what mattered. A few years passed, and as the boys reached junior high school, my husband started taking their friends along for outings. Thanks to the variety of activities, he became quite popular among them. Parents often called to express their gratitude, appreciating how happy their children were. My sons were proud of their popular father, who they adored. So, while I often heard other parents complain about teenage angst and rebellious phases, those were alien issues to our household. But we had other problems.
Don't you think he's taking us for granted?
That's annoying. We need to set him straight, don't we? If you let it slide even once, that's it, right?
Yeah, maybe we should give him a piece of our mind.
As I was washing dishes one evening, I could hear this rough conversation coming from the living room. My eldest had become a bit wild since starting high school. And it seemed to have influenced his younger brother too. I think the change in my eldest's personality was partly due to the new environment at high school, but mostly it was due to following in his father's footsteps.
That's right, give it to him straight.
My husband was also chiming in on their conversation. I wished he would admonish their unruly behavior, but instead, he was agreeing with our eldest. It was like having 3 brothers in the house. Disappointed, I continued with my chores, sighing. 2 years have passed, and now my eldest is in his final year of high school, and the younger one is a freshman. I'm currently dealing with a particular request from them.
Why can't we?
It's dangerous, that's why.
It's not dangerous.
Our friends are doing it too. I'm old enough now.
Please let me go get my driver's license with Lucas.
The boys kept nagging me about getting their licenses as I prepared dinner, but I adeptly dodged them while continuing my cooking. My eldest had been wanting to get his driver's license. Given his reckless nature, I feared that giving him a bike would only accelerate his misbehavior, so I refused, citing safety concerns. However, he didn't give up and continued to plead with me, and now his brother was old enough to apply for a license too, so they teamed up to persuade me. Well, actually, it was all 3 of them.
Now that Ethan is old enough for a license, maybe it's okay?
But what if they start running around everywhere?
They'll be fine. They're good kids, and they do well in school. It seems cruel to keep them waiting any longer.
My husband still played frequently with the boys, acting more like an older brother than a father. He seemed to understand them better than I did. If he thought it was okay, then maybe it was. Reluctantly, I nodded in agreement. The boys, having received my blessing, obtained their licenses at lightning speed. They must have really wanted them because they had studied diligently in advance. My eldest had even saved up from his part-time job to buy one immediately. The younger one started working at a restaurant and saved up to buy one a little later.
I still think my bike looks cooler.
No, my bike's color is better. Once the boys got their bikes, they started bragging about their bikes a lot. Their faces looked so happy that I felt good about allowing them to get their licenses. However, after a while, my fears began to materialize.
Honey, Lucas and the boys sent a message again saying they don't need dinner tonight.
With their new bikes, they've really broadened their horizons. They're having the time of their lives, just let them be.
But aren't you worried they're out so late? They're still in high school.
They're high schoolers now.
Don't micromanage everything they do. If they say they're late, they're keeping in touch, aren't they? Plus, they're using their own money from their jobs to eat out, so there's no problem, right? Aren't you worried about accidents or something worse? They're out there because they enjoy it. If something happens, it'll be a good lesson in responsibility for them. I tried to have a serious conversation, but my husband just laughed it off. He doesn't seem to worry at all when the boys are out late. I used to think my husband was a great dad for taking the boys out. But lately, I've started to feel like he's just taking them along when he goes out for his own fun, and maybe he's not really interested in them. Realizing I couldn't rely on my husband, I decided to talk to the boys myself. You guys have been coming home late. Can you try to come back a bit earlier? But when we're with friends, it's embarrassing to say my parents want me home early. I get that you have your social lives and reputations, but I want you home early, okay? So, a curfew? Right. Make sure you're home early. Now we have a curfew. What a pain. The boys grumbled but headed to their rooms. I think I might have worsened my image with them. But at least they promised to come home earlier than before, so I'll settle for that now. However, the world seems to have its own set of strange rules, and as soon as one problem is solved, another arises. How about that? Isn't it cool? Wow, that car is really cool. True, it's great being an adult. Even though I'm happy with the bike, I still feel small. Watching my husband boast about his new car made me dizzy. I couldn't even stand. He had bought the car without consulting me. Though I'm not well versed in cars, his proud face told me it was an expensive purchase. He said he got a good deal from an acquaintance, but it was still a car, so it wasn't cheap. I wanted to tell him to return it, but all the paperwork was already done, and it wasn't a simple matter of small change, so returning the car would be difficult. I decided to handle my husband's foolishness by cutting his allowance. I'm going out, don't wait until dinner. Going to be late again? I'm not a kid. There's no need for you to worry if I'm late. My husband smiled broadly and left the house as if it was the most natural thing. Now that the boys had their bikes, they were hanging out on their own, and my husband, with his new car, often went out alone. He stayed out late, spent money, and didn't listen to anything I said. It seems the eldest of the three brothers is the most troublesome. This was too much even for me, so I decided to call a close friend for advice. He does whatever he wants, more trouble than the kids. Maybe it's time to change your perspective? I'm single, so I don't understand, but many people think it's annoying to have their husbands around, right? If he wants to leave the house on his own, maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Is that really okay? That's fine. You're always overthinking things. Every time I discuss my concerns, I feel like they're just brushed off with a laugh. Maybe my problems seem trivial to others. Following my friend's advice, I tried to adopt a more positive outlook and decided not to worry too much about my husband. Not caring about him made me feel lighter. It seems my friend's advice was right. However, I soon learned from my sons that the situation was not as I thought. One holiday, as my husband left the house alone as usual, my eldest and youngest sons came to me and casually dropped a bombshell. Dad seems to be having an affair. If he's married, it should be called an affair, right? Yes, it is. The boys mentioned it so casually, like they were gossiping about someone snacking, that I couldn't believe their words at first. Why are you suddenly saying Dad is having an affair? I don't understand, I questioned, looking at them doubtfully. Think before you speak. Mom's shocked, isn't she, like her brain stopped working? Sorry, Mom. It's shocking, isn't it? Not just shocking, but why are you suddenly bringing this up? Well, apparently Dad has been seen dating some woman no one knows. Some woman no one knows? Could it just be a coworker or someone he happened to be walking with? No, it's different. They've been seen together in his car at a gas station, shopping together at the mall, eating together at diners, spotted all over the place. And how many jobs does this friend have to see them everywhere? You're joking about this adultery thing, trying to trick me, right? No, it's not just one person who's seen them, several have. How come all your friends know what Dad looks like? That's weird, isn't it? Not really. They all used to hang out with Dad back in junior high school. Wait, so you're not joking about the affair? No, it's true. Someone even sent photos. Wanna see? I peered into my oldest son's phone. There, joyfully holding hands and walking through the mall, were my husband and his best friend. I had been consulting the supposed mistress about my husband's late-night outings. Overwhelmed by the absurdity, I sank into the sofa. Now that I knew the boys were telling the truth, I decided to confront my husband. That night, when he came home, I immediately presented the photos shown to me by my eldest son. What's this all about? These are photos with Emily? So, you found out. My husband casually admitted he was with his best friend. I was expecting him to offer a barrage of excuses, so this straightforward admission threw me off. Moreover, his expression was eerie and unsettling. Hey, can you just divorce me? What? Divorce? As I was trying to grasp his thoughts, he bluntly dropped the divorce bomb, leaving me even more confused. Seeing my panic, he smirked even more. I can't understand the situation, but it seems I'm dancing on his palms. I've been thinking about divorcing you for a while. You're just so plain and boring. Why did you marry me then? Because I was young? That's it? You married me just because you were young? Yeah, why? I got to brag about marrying a woman 10 years younger. But you and Emily, you're the same age. She has hobbies, and she's fun to be around. She's like an upgrade on you. It makes sense to switch, right? Don't you care about Lucas and Ethan? At first, wherever I took them, their reactions were fresh and fun. But they've grown up so much. Hanging out with them now feels just like hanging out with any acquaintance. So, it doesn't matter if they're around or not. What? That sounds like you're tired of playing with them. Angry? You'd want to divorce a guy like me, right? So, it's settled then. I'll just bring the divorce papers next time. Laughing, my husband left the house as if he was just popping out to a store. I don't mind divorcing. But why should I be the one being forced into it? Tears blurred my vision as I dealt with the unfairness of the situation. Months passed, and my husband had left the house and hadn't contacted me. Even when I reached out, he didn't respond. Just when I started to worry whether he was serious about the divorce, he suddenly showed up at home. Hey! Long time no see. Confused by his sudden appearance. I was even more bewildered when I saw the mistress. His best friend, standing beside him with the same smirking face. I brought the divorce papers. It took you long enough. Yeah, I wanted to deliver this too. Please come to our wedding. My husband and his best friend handed me the divorce papers along with a card that turned out to be a wedding invitation. Sorry, we're getting married. You give me divorce papers and a wedding invitation together? How much more do you need to insult me? It's your fault for stealing my Jack. What do you mean? I liked Jack too, but he was popular, so he had many rivals, right? That's why I pushed you towards him, hoping to use you to gather information about his hobbies and preferences. Then you went and married him, which I truly couldn't believe. But I didn't give up. I kept approaching Jack at work. Since he was already married, I was careful not to let it turn into an affair, which is why it took so long. Being careful not to let it turn into an affair? This is an affair, isn't it? You're misunderstanding something. I was overwhelmed by Emily's advances, and I chose divorce. It was only after we discussed our divorce that I entered into a proper relationship with Emily. You didn't object to the divorce, did you? Since it was decided after our divorce was agreed upon, it can't be called an affair, right? How can that be? You're telling me you're getting married just a few months after deciding to divorce? You were probably preparing for the wedding during these months. And you started staying out late and going out alone because you were having an affair, right? There must have been something between you too long before we talked about divorce. It's all speculation, isn't it? There are photos of us together when I was being approached, but no photos proving infidelity, right? Don't make such accusations without evidence. It's not an accusation, it's a natural assumption. People get married in a day, you know? It's not strange to get married within a few months. Don't impose your values on me. To me, my husband and his friend's expressions seemed devilish. With no evidence, their excuses seemed to hold. I felt twice betrayed by my husband. Anyway, we're getting married, so please file this in time. Can we discuss child support and property division later? It's a hectic time for us right now. All right, then handle the rest later. With devilish laughter, my husband and his friend left the house. I stared at the divorce papers and wedding invitation, tears blurring my vision again. Overcome and unable to move, I just sat on the sofa, doing nothing but stare blankly. After a while, I heard the door open. It seemed my sons had returned from their outing. What's wrong, Mom? Is this a divorce paper? Wow, so this is what a divorce paper looks like. What's this? A wedding invitation? True, Dad's name is on it. So, this woman's name, the rumored friend of yours, is one of Dad's mistresses? Are you going to the wedding? No way! Can we go to this? I guess that's fine. After all, we are his sons. If you want to go, you can, but I'm not going, so it'll just be the two of you. My sons, having received my permission, looked at each other and seemed to communicate silently. I couldn't tell what they were talking about, but both the eldest and the youngest seemed excited. They must be looking forward to the wedding food, I thought, but apparently that wasn't the case. Well, we'll be going then. It's our father's wedding. We must celebrate it properly. Right, it's our dear father's wedding. We have to make it an unforgettable wedding. What's gotten into you two all of a sudden? We're going to ruin Dad's wedding. Ruin? You're not planning to cause a scene, are you? If we did that, we'd be the bad guys, right? Don't worry, we'll make Dad regret it the right way. I was bewildered even by my sons. I thought they'd side with their father or remain neutral due to their mischievous nature and because they used to have fun together. But it seems they were on my side. Didn't you guys enjoy playing with Dad? And now you want to hurt him? Having fun with him doesn't excuse his wrongdoing. Yeah, exactly. If someone does something bad, they need to face the consequences. That's right. Since Dad clearly did wrong, it's only natural to make him face the consequences. I realized I had misunderstood my children and felt embarrassed. Upon reflection, I recognized that although they complained when I admonished them, they listened. Even when they came home late, they always called, and they never went to get their licenses without my consent despite opposing it. While mischievous, my sons always acted properly, distinguishing right from wrong and willing to correct mistakes. Though somewhat aloof, my sons had grown up to be honest kids. So, do you have a plan to make Dad face the consequences? I asked. The boys began communicating with just looks again. I didn't expect much from a plan concocted by high schoolers. However, I was touched that they thought of a plan for my sake, so I listened intently as they spoke, nodding along. By the end of their explanation, I found myself sharing their excited expressions. This plan might just work to bring Dad down. On the day of Dad and his best friend's wedding, the boys headed to the venue. Although part of me wanted to see the plan unfold in person, I had already filed for divorce, making Dad a stranger to me, and I had no desire to celebrate his friend. So, I stayed home to house sit, clutching my phone and waiting for news from my sons. Waiting made time pass slowly, and I found myself checking the clock repeatedly. After a while, my eldest son finally called. It was a video call. Mom, can you see? Yes, I can see. Looks like it's going to go as planned, so watch closely. Okay. My eldest son showed me the inside of the venue. The ceremony was about to begin, and it seemed the bride and groom had just entered. Seeing my best friend in her wedding dress, I reminisced about my own wedding with Dad. The crowd was filled with unfamiliar faces. Probably because of my divorce, husband's side must have had few attendees. The former husband and best friend stood in front of the priest, and the vows began. Just as the priest asked the standard "Do you take?" a classic dramatic interruption occurred.
Stop this wedding!
The camera picked up the sound of a woman bursting through the doors and the surprised gasps of the attendees. Turning towards the entrance, there stood a woman I had never seen before. She walked towards my ex-husband and his friend with determined steps, and the camera followed her. While some guests were shocked by the sudden turn of events, others seemed to think it was part of the show, likely mistaking it for a staged drama. However, when the woman grabbed my ex-husband, the atmosphere in the venue, even through the camera, felt icy.
What is this about? I didn't hear anything about a divorce. Weren't you supposed to marry me after divorcing her? Why are you here? How did you know today was the wedding day? Wait, Jack. What is this woman saying? What's going on?
The force and words of the woman made it clear to everyone that this was no act. The venue became noisy, and it was hard to hear the exchange between my ex-husband and the others from a distance.
Couldn't have timed it better. Yeah, seriously, she knows how to make an entrance.
Amidst the murmuring crowd, my sons burst out laughing. I found myself laughing too, pleased to see my ex-husband and his best friend's perfect day turn into a complete disaster. My son's friends had sent photos of the affair, and some included women other than the best friend. It appeared my husband had affairs with other women too. The woman who stormed the venue was another mistress, let's call her Mistress 2. If the best friend was Mistress 1, then the intruder was definitely Mistress 2. It may sound rude, but since she was likely involved with my husband before our divorce, I think she'll forgive the moniker. When discussing the affair, I thought one photo would suffice, so I had only sent the one involving the best friend to my eldest. When I showed it to my husband, he acknowledged, "Is this a photo with Emily?" At that moment, I mistakenly thought he didn't possess photos with others. I could have mentioned the existence of other photos then, but decided it was better to have more cards to play later, so I kept quiet. After realizing the best friend was the main woman, I decided to inform Mistress 2 of the wedding date. My husband had apparently lied to Mistress 2, promising marriage after our divorce. He likely intended to continue the affair even after remarrying the best friend. Mistress 2 was understandably furious upon learning this truth.
Oh, the next one's arrived. Really?
It's already hellish enough. As their conversation reached my ears, the camera shifted back to the entrance. There stood a woman, looking furious. It was the arrival of Mistress 3. In reality, my ex-husband had affairs with several other women, not just Mistress 2. Mistress 3 marched towards my ex-husband as if in a replay. But since he was already caught by Mistress 2, she turned her attention to the best friend.
Why are you marrying Jack without my consent? I was supposed to marry him.
The unexpected appearance of Mistress 3 suddenly quieted the previously buzzing venue. This made the angry shouts of the mistresses clearly audible. My sons were chuckling, and I could hear their laughter through the phone. I was already satisfied seeing my ex-husband and his best friend in turmoil, but it seemed my sons were not quite done yet.
Wouldn't it be funny if the rest showed up right now? I told them all the same time, so I think the rest are already here. Why don't you go look for them?
Got it. I heard my son's conversation over the phone. It appeared that my younger son went off to look for the remaining mistresses. A few minutes later, 3 more women entered the venue. They were Mistresses 4, 5, and 6. They charged towards my ex-husband and his best friend as if competing in a race, almost ready to throw punches.
Why are you holding a wedding? I didn't hear anything about this. Are you really divorced already?
The 3 women also latched onto my ex-husband and his friend. The venue erupted into chaos as 5 mistresses simultaneously confronted them. If only my ex-husband had severed ties with all 5 mistresses when he decided to marry his best friend, this chaos could have been avoided. But trying to maintain multiple relationships was his own doing. Yet, it's quite something that my sons managed to call all 5 mistresses. I suppose this activeness must be inherited from their father. and to think they came up with such an idea. When I first heard about their plan, I doubted it could really happen.
How are you going to get the mistresses to crash the wedding? Dad often brought his mistresses to the store where my friend works. So, when a mistress came in, my friend would pass her a note saying, "You're being deceived. There's another woman. Here's my contact." With the wedding still some time away, we thought this plan might just work.
I was skeptical that the plan would succeed. A note handed over by a clerk seemed too suspicious to prompt a response. But then,
all of them contacted me.
Really? I was incredulous, but after seeing the messages at my eldest, I understood why. My husband always wanted to marry someone much younger, choosing his best friend, who is 10 years his junior, as his main interest. Therefore, the other mistresses were older than us, between the ages of 46 and 54, close to my husband's age of 55. It's understandable that women of this age would not want to miss a chance to marry if it arose. The sudden delivery of a note suggesting infidelity would naturally cause alarm. Moreover, the friend of my son's who handed out the notes was well known to the mistresses, having been played with by my ex-husband as a child. Knowing much about my ex-husband, he could answer most questions from the mistresses, making it easier for them to trust him. I was worried when my ex-husband noticed the friend, but it seems he didn't recognize him. Faces change a lot from junior high to high school. And he surely didn't expect someone he had entertained as a child to suddenly show up in front of him. That's probably why he didn't recognize him. A bit more awareness from my ex-husband might have spared him from this disastrous situation. The wedding venue turned into a battlefield. As the attendees were too stunned to move, staff intervened to break up the fights. My ex-husband and his best friend were taken back to a private room, and the 5 mistresses were led to another room. My ex-husband looked as beaten as a boxer after a match. And his best friend was shouting at him. It seemed their fight would continue even in the private room.
"Both of you, they've taken everyone away, so it's time to come back."
"Okay, we're heading back now."
"Oh, make sure to grab some souvenirs."
The boys hung up as they left the venue. Despite not having eaten anything, I felt oddly full. The next day, my ex-husband stormed into my house.
"What are you going to do about this? I got divorced just one day after getting married, and it's all your fault."
That's clearly his own fault. My sons and I couldn't help but laugh at his misplaced blame. After the incident, it seems his best friend dumped him. However, his showing up was convenient as I had matters to settle with him.
"I'll be claiming child support and your property for the divorce."
"What?" I confronted my ex-husband with photos that served as evidence of his infidelity. These photos were provided by the 5 mistresses. Since it's his fault, I insisted that he must pay what he owes. Although he had just divorced his best friend, he was still involved with 5 other women. However, all 5 women were furious over this incident and abandoned him. This meant my ex-husband was simultaneously dumped by 7 women, including myself and his best friend.
No, wait. Why do I have to go through this? You brought this on yourself by messing around with several women.
Having said what I needed to, I tried to push him out, but I wasn't strong enough to move him on my own. That's when my sons helped me.
"Mom said get out, so you should leave. This is your comeuppance, Dad. Reflect and accept it."
They advised him as they pushed him out the door. About a month later, my ex-husband and his best friend quit their jobs and disappeared. They didn't go somewhere together, each went their own way. The story of the wedding invaded by 5 mistresses, leading to a divorce just one day into marriage, was bound to spread at work. Unable to stand the whispers, both resigned from their jobs. It's likely I'll never see them again. My eldest son is now sprinting towards the final stretch before his college entrance exams. My younger son finds his part-time job at a restaurant intriguing and has decided to pursue culinary school after graduating high school. Although they are still a bit wild, this is typical of adolescence, and they'll likely settle down eventually. They have already started working hard towards their futures. Just a little more to go until my parenting is over.
I plan to fully support and back my sons in their endeavors.